Good morning, this is Omni View, episode 50. It's May 14th, 2026, and as always, we're covering what happened from every angle. Here's the news, the perspectives, and the questions worth asking. Trump's meeting with Xi in Beijing carries direct stakes for global trade rules, AI development, and the path of ongoing conflicts in Iran and Ukraine. U.S. President Donald Trump arrived at the Great Hall of the People for an opening ceremony and one-hour face-to-face session with Chinese leader Xi Jinping. The talks are scheduled to cover international trade, artificial intelligence, and the war involving Iran. Security was tightened across the capital ahead of the visit. The Guardian frames the encounter as a high-stakes reset between the two powers, noting that both leaders have described their long acquaintance and the need to manage flashpoints. Chinese state media stressed that mishandling Taiwan could lead to conflict, reflecting Beijing's priority on sovereignty issues. U.S. coverage highlights Trump's emphasis on securing deals from major companies, showing how domestic political optics shape the American approach. Both sides agree the agenda includes concrete economic and security items, yet they differ on which topic deserves first attention. Which specific trade or technology issues are most likely to produce measurable outcomes? Shifting now to Britain, Angela Rayner announced she had paid £40,000 to resolve an HMRC inquiry over unpaid stamp duty. She stated she had been cleared and suggested the Prime Minister should consider stepping aside. The announcement came amid reports that Wes Streeting is preparing a challenge. The Daily Mail presents the episode as evidence of deepening internal disorder within the governing party, linking it to broader questions about mandate and stability. Labor-aligned voices describe the payment as closure of a personal matter that should not distract from policy delivery. Commentators outside the party note that any leadership change would still require a general election to secure a fresh public mandate. All accounts agree the tax issue has been settled. Disagreement centers on whether it strengthens or weakens Rayner's position inside the party. What procedural steps would follow if a leadership contest were formally triggered? Meanwhile, Russian forces launched strikes across multiple Ukrainian regions, striking a residential building in Kyiv. Rescue teams are searching the rubble for survivors. Officials confirmed one fatality from the attacks. BBC reporting focuses on the immediate humanitarian impact and the continuing search operation in the capital. Ukrainian authorities describe the strikes as part of a sustained campaign against civilian infrastructure. Russian statements continue to frame the actions as targeting military assets. The factual record shows damage to residential areas. Interpretations differ on the intended targets and proportionality. How do nightly strike patterns affect civilian movement and energy supplies? Vice President Vance stated that talks with Iran have advanced, while Israel conducted further strikes in Lebanon. The comments came as President Trump began his separate visit to China. The conflict has now passed 75 days. Al Jazeera coverage links the diplomatic movement to the parallel U.S.-China summit, suggesting possible coordination. Israeli officials emphasize continued operations against Hezbollah-linked targets. Iranian representatives stress that any agreement must address core security concerns. All parties acknowledge ongoing negotiations. They diverge on the timeline and scope of any ceasefire. What benchmarks would indicate genuine de-escalation rather than temporary pauses? Major European indices opened higher on Thursday. Traders cited political developments in Britain and the Trump-Xi meeting as key factors. Markets are also monitoring bond movements tied to UK leadership speculation. CNBC reporting ties the gains to hopes that clearer political signals in London and Beijing could reduce uncertainty. Bond traders remain cautious about potential leadership changes in the UK. Equity analysts note that any extension of trade calm between Washington and Beijing would support risk assets. Observers agree volatility stems from political news flow. They differ on whether the moves represent short-term positioning or longer-term conviction. Which sectors are most sensitive to UK political stability? Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's office said he had visited the United Arab Emirates quietly during the war with Iran. UAE authorities later stated no such visit occurred. NPR coverage presents the conflicting statements without endorsing either account, noting the sensitivity of Gulf diplomacy. Israeli sources framed the reported trip as part of wartime coordination. Emirati officials emphasized that no meeting took place, preserving public distance. Both sides agree on the existence of private channels. They differ on whether this particular visit happened. What verification standards apply to reports of unannounced diplomatic travel? Before we go, tomorrow watch for any joint statements emerging from the Trump-Xi meetings on trade and technology access. That's Omni. For full source links and more context, check out today's written briefing on the Omni summaries page. As always, compare outlets, look for primary documents, and separate what's known from what's assumed. If balanced perspectives are valuable to you, share this with a friend and subscribe wherever you listen. See you tomorrow. This episode used AI voice synthesis of my voice. Editorial selection and analysis are my own.